So good morning, I'm Phyllis. I'll be facilitating today's meeting. Eracism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show that we are committed to treating all human beings with love, respect, empathy, compassion, and humility. Join us. Erace is an organization that does not espouse any political party, and we have no religious affiliation. We believe in acceptance of all people, and no personal attacks of any kind will be tolerated. We come with the intention to listen, learn, and not to argue. I'm going to read our land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that what we know as the United States is the ancestral and unceded territory of many indigenous peoples, and that there are many more nations and tribes that could be named here. Members of our meeting group today are on the lands of the Chitimacha and Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creeks and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Tonkawan, Lipan Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Lenape and Piscataway in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples in Boston, the Coahuila and Mojave in Riverside, and the Lumbee in Fayetteville. We thank their ancestors for being stewards of these lands through the generations and through today. We need to protect and honor the history and people of these places. Despite centuries of colonial theft and violence, we should always remember that we are all still on indigenous land, and it will always be indigenous land. So everyone here today is aware of how we operate the meeting. We ask everyone to keep themselves on mute if they've not been called on to speak. You can raise one finger to get on the list, and then you'll be called in order of the list. And if someone speaking says something that you don't understand, isn't clear to you, a word or a statement, you can put up two fingers, and I will ask you to ask your question when they finish speaking. It has to be a question that clarifies something they have just said, not a rebuttal to something they just said. Louise is kindly going to be the timekeeper today, so you'll hear her alarm thing go off when it's your 2 minutes. Close to the end, we will have a wrap-up time where anybody who hasn't spoken can take 2 minutes at that time to say what they want, and then everybody else will get 1 minute. Hello, Kitty. And so I'm going to ask you all to go around and introduce yourselves, and then I'll talk about why I chose this topic. I'll start with you, Marion.
Okay, good morning again, everyone. I'm Marion here in New Orleans, and I've been attending these discussions since June of 1993, and I'm looking forward to this discussion. Should be very interesting.
Thank you. Nancy?
Good morning. I'm Nancy. I'm located in New Orleans, and I've been coming since June of 2007.
You? Louise?
Hi, I'm Louise. This is Bootsy. I've been coming for a couple of decades, and originally in New Orleans, and then now I'm in Austin.
Teresa?
I'm Teresa, and I've been coming since August 2022. I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Marla?
Hello, I'm Marla. I am in the New Orleans area, and I've been coming to Erace since about 2019-ish.
Larry?
I'm Larry. Good morning.
Morning. Beatrice? Beatrice?
Hi, I am unmuted now. I am at another meeting, but I did not want to miss the conversation. So I'm just really briefly here and wishing that I could be longer. I know that it will be interesting. I've been in Erace since 1993, and I just wanted to say good morning to everyone, and I hope you have a good discussion. Sorry I have to miss. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Chris.
Okay, so I brought this article as a follow-up / continuation of last week's discussion, which was led by Marla. And mainly there seemed to be not a clear understanding of what is a male feminist was one thing, and the dynamics that women face versus what men face. And it was disappointing, the dynamic of that, and also the after conversation that was held that was even more that was not recorded, that was even more discouraging and disappointing, I would say. So I was Googling lots of things to try to find a topic, and that's how I came across Teresa's blog from a while ago. And I thought this was interesting because of this person's perspective as someone who's both American and Kenyan, a professor at Cornell, and I never heard of him before I found this, and I thought it was it is in an interview format. So if you're going to refer to anything, if you want to, you could say in the what question it's under, like number 4, etc. Louise, did you have a question? You want to get on the list? Okay, I haven't started that yet, but good. Okay, so I think there'll be a lot that can be brought out in this conversation through this article and this professor's perspective. His name is Mukoma Wa Ngugi. And again, he's a professor at Cornell. One of the quotes in this that I thought really made almost the whole article for me, or the whole interview, was he says, I think the biggest threat to men is masculinity itself, because it stops all of us from being fully human and fully self-actualizing. And that complicates our interpersonal relationships with women, because our sense of self is defined against women. So I'm sure people will have lots of thoughts on this. So I will open the list with Louise, and then if anybody else wants to get on the list, please put up a finger and let me know. Go, Louise.
I just had to put the timer on for myself. So that was one of the quotes that I wrote down. I have to admit, I left it to the last minute to read the article. I'd just been crazy busy this week. And so I've only got through to, I think, the 5th question. But yeah, I was writing some notes, and yeah, one of them was masculinity is the threat. That's great. And I really wish Glenn was here, because I think he summarizes what a male feminist is perfectly. What else did
He's just coming in right now, as you
said. Good.
Your wish is his command.
Ask and you shall receive.
Wow.
Be careful what you wish for. I don't know.
Do you want to start over?
Yeah. I only got up to question 4. But I think he epitomizes what male feminism is brilliantly. Because I know there was confusion as to what it was in last week's discussion. And there's other things, but hold on, let me see. They're all a little bit higgledy-piggledy. Let me put, the first one was, what he said was, as men, we first sexualize, and this also infantilizes women before seeing them as human beings, which is, as we know, as women, is so true. And I'm a man interested in the interconnectedness of struggle, an ideology of resistance, and that's how he puts male feminism, and I think that's just perfect, really, right? And he says, I think that was in question 4, not sure. He refuses to be part of a conversation that sees women's accomplishments through their physical appearance, which, again, as women, we have experienced and have witnessed on many occasions. I just think I might be popping back to the thing so I can read some more and get some more input, but that was literally up to question 4. He's very eloquent and puts things very well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Louise. The list is open.
Oh, shush. Got a life of its own.
Doesn't want to stop.
No.
Anybody else want to get on the list? Marion?
Oh my God.
You're muted.
Okay, there it is. I think we've all heard this before. I think so much of what society lays on women has to do with attitudes, opinions, actions that have been done eons ago. Men are perceived as stronger, women are perceived as weaker. Some women even buy into that quite recently. In fact, I think it was the early part of this week. I either heard this on a news channel or I saw it online, might have been YouTube. This lady was interviewed uh, in another state. I think it was Pennsylvania or Wisconsin. And the journalist was asking her about her voting preference, and she said, "Oh, I just couldn't vote for a woman. Uh, uh, Even though Kamala is competent, I just couldn't. I just couldn't." And she was on the verge of tears. And I said, "Well, lady, just you said what you had to say. Just be quiet." It really disgusted me that here in the year 2025, we still have this attitude, belief, whatever you want to call it. I'll go along to some degree to agree that yeah, physically women are weaker than men, but that doesn't mean we have weak brains or weak intellect. We can think, we create, we invent, we can do some of the same things men can do intellectually. We've done it 1,000 million times. So I wish women in general would adopt a more positive attitude about what we can do. We're not these little weak, helpless, oh, save me, yeah, individuals. We are strong. Women have strength. Go women.
Thank you, Marion. Next is Teresa. Then Glenn.
Yeah, thank you, Marion, for pointing that out. And when you were talking about strengths, it was Howard Gardner who talked about multiple intelligences. And so I would like to extend that thought that there are multiple strengths. There's not just, I mean, if everything in life had to do with arm wrestling, then I would say yes, majority of the men would beat majority of the women, but not all strength is arm wrestling. Some of it is strength of character. And, I don't have like the breakdown of different types of strengths like I do because I was an educator for over 20 years. And I know I'm very familiar with Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. But I can tell you that there are different strengths, at least strengths of character, if not strengths and, physicality. And it's really disingenuous to think that just because you're not physically strong, Because what reminded me of this is you're talking like the mightiest man could be brought down for the desire of a woman or loneliness or a drug addiction or whatever. So the fact that he is physically strong doesn't mean that he does not have vulnerabilities that cannot be exploited. And to think that a woman is weak in totality because she's not going to win an arm wrestling contest or a boxing match with a man, or what I've heard, well, if the female basketball players had to play male basketball players, they'd get slaughtered. And I just thought, well, there is such a thing as technique. I mean, I don't do well in any game that involves a ball, but surely there is the physicality of the athlete, but then there's also the technique. I remember when I was taking martial arts, and it was different levels, different people in the class. And I lifted this big, I mean, he was a bear of a man off his feet. He screamed because he didn't think I should be able to do it. But when you're doing those practice drills, he expected me to do the practice drill as we were doing it. I just thought, oh, I'm gonna try to flip him. And I wasn't really, I was just joking with him. So I didn't, but I lifted his weight, his feet separated from the ground, and he screamed. He did not expect me to do it. So technique, I'm telling you, especially when your opponent isn't expecting you to do a move, he was
Mhm.
not ready for it. I could have flipped and had that big bear of a man on his back, but I was just, messing around. So there you go.
Thank you. Do you want to get back on the list, Teresa?
I probably will, but not right now. Thanks.
Thanks. Glenn, you're next.
Okay. Uh, I heard the remarks. Uh, that a woman is judged by how she looks. Uh, well, it's women who are dressing
Oh,
in a way that they're going to be judged of how they look. You know, if you if you go, somebody's making noise while I'm talking. Who is that?
it's birds. It's
Mute
my
that person
garden.
out.
It's my birds. The garden.
All
I'm
right.
doing the
Now,
timekeeping, so I'll just.
if you're gonna wear a split from up on your thigh all the way down, you trying to attract attention to your body parts. You know, and if you wear a cut dress where your breast is showing,
Marlon. Were you finished, Glenn? Because we can't hear you. Just me. Glenn? Okay, I guess he's done. So next I've got Marla, then Nancy.
I have to take some deep breaths because I can feel my chest tightening and my blood pressure rising. Respectfully, our lived experience isn't something that you all should be critiquing. And newsflash, what we wear is not meant for you. We wear what we want to wear because we want to wear it and what we feel like when we wake up in the morning. It's not about looking good for you. It's not about being pleasing to your eye. We do it for us, first and foremost. And I just want to also add, there's so much more to add, but I really am grateful for this article because some of the things, and it really prompted great discussions between me and my husband. And he agrees. Yes, men do sexualize women before they actually see them as whole or complete human beings, that, being quote unquote visual creatures, if you will, that they initially are seeing us in that way. And then afterwards is when we're seen more as complete people. So anyway, that's it for now.
Thank you, Marla. I just realized Glenn disappeared. Nancy, you're next, and then the list is open.
Well, Marla said what I was going to say. I've had this discussion many times before about why women dress the way that they do, and women do not dress for men. Women dress not only for themselves, but if there's anybody they're dressing for, it's other women. It's a competition. If you go in the office, it's a competition between women, how each other is dressing. If you go in there, now there may be a woman who's going to try out dress everybody else, but in the office or whatever, or in the work environment and whatnot. But if in certain environments, if you notice, they all kind of dress kind of similar in a lot of ways, depending on the environment that you're in. And it is definitely a competition between women. It's not about men. Men are going to look. I don't care if you got a burlap bag on. They're going to look anyway. Don't matter what you wear. So the competition is between who's got, and also the expense, you know, oh, I'm wearing Gucci and I'm wearing Michael Kors and I'm wearing, is that kind of thing. Okay. Where you bought whatever at and how much you paid for it, or it can be in the opposite. You're, oh girl, look at this. I got this at Marshall's, you know, but it's definitely between women. There's nothing to do with men. So I wish Glenn was on here so he could get over that. And I got more to say, but we'll continue later.
Okay, let me know when you want back on the list. Teresa?
I just want to say this is the umpteenth time that we women have made it known in just different discussions. I even had a writer group where we were, men and women, and the women had to say, I feel like it's once again, women don't dress for men, we dress for other women. And the best way that men can discover that little pearl of knowledge is once that woman is your significant other, whether she's your wife or longtime girlfriend, and you're like, oh, you don't dress for me, or you don't dress. I never did. It was to beat off the other women. And the way I would think men can understand this, again, going about different strengths, if we want to consider sense of style or fashion or whatever being a strength, because some people dress very well, you always see them, and it's like, wow, that looks really nice. And then other people, it's like, you don't really have that sense of style. Anyway, um, men also compete with other men. I mean, they're not just flexing muscles, and I'm talking about straight men. They're not just flexing muscles to attract women. They're also flexing as it is a competition. And I would say nothing more. Well, there are a lot of reasons why people get into conflicts, but man, doesn't those hormones do the trick? I mean, for those of us who were educators and taught middle school, I would just be just so amazed at how much conflict these 13-year-olds can have. And it's like, you're 13, what's the thing? And it's hormones. It is hormones. And whoever made the comment about the burlap sack, you're right. It doesn't matter what you're wearing because hormones are inside of you. Your hormones are going to direct you to, I mean, it's amazing to me that a man can go to a strip club and can smell which woman is menstruating or smell which woman is ovulating and tip her more because they can smell it. They may not know at the time, but there has been studies about men and being able, and they may not even be conscious of it. So it doesn't matter what a woman is doing. She could just walk past you and be ovulating, and his hormones are going to respond to her hormones.
Hmm.
I'm a little gobsmacked by that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. Okay, I've got Louise and Nancy. Anybody else want to get on the list? Okay, Louise, go
Yeah,
ahead.
put me on that list. I smell them all the time.
Okay, Glenn. That's good. Okay, Louise.
Um, well, Glenn, so women, again, one of your fantastic generalizations. Walk around dressing provocatively. I mean, maybe a lady of the street who is earning money that way might be a little provocative, perhaps, who knows? But that's, there's, we, sorry, I didn't really think this through I was just so gobsmacked by that comment. It's, do you know what? I can't, it's just not I mean, I can't. Marla, help me out, sister. Yeah, so I'll leave it there.
Okay, if you want to get back on the list when you remember what you wanted to say, let me know. Next is Nancy, then Glenn, then Marla.
Glenn, while you were off the screen, what I said in response to your comment was that women do not dress for men. Well, Marla said it, but I said it as well. Women do not dress for men. Women dress for women and other women. It is a competition between women. It is not about what men think about how we dress. It really isn't. And you need to educate yourself on that issue. Also, at the Audubon Nature Institute, out at the research center, which is way out, what is that, River Road, past, what is that? I'm drawing a blank. But once you go over the Woodland Bridge, out that way, between there and Bell Chase, they have a research facility center where they keep animals for observation purposes. Okay. And they have a lion's den. Okay. And they have, can't remember how many female lions they have, but they have one male, and he has one job. The only reason that he's out there is to be able to let them know when the females are in heat, when they're ovulating. Because other than that, they wouldn't know. And then and that's when they watch them to see if they have sex, if he's going to impregnate them, and they can begin their research on reproduction between lions. But that's the only reason he's there. He gets free room and board and sex. That's it. That's
Thank
it.
you.
I'm done.
Thank you, Nancy. Glenn? Glenn, you're next.
I'm not going to agree with that when y'all say that's the only reason a woman dressed provocatively is being in competition with other women. I ain't going for that. Now, uh,
We didn't say provocatively.
Nancy.
look, why y'all tell me to shut up when I try to interfere with somebody and you let Louise pop off her mouth all the time?
I apologize. I was doing the timing. I forgot I'm on. I apologize. That's my bad.
All right. Okay. Yeah. See, you make me lose my train of thought. I guess that was purpose. Uh, oh man. Yeah. Well, look. Y'all did bring up some good qualities about the women's brain. It's no different than a man's brain. Uh, um, we equal in that department. That's all I can say. I kind of got off my thoughts. Uh, that's it. That's all I can say right now.
Okay, thanks. Let us know if you want back on. Marla
Uh,
and Nancy.
Yeah. We'll just reiterate, we are not here for male consumption. That's not our reason for existing. We're not here for your pleasure or to be your eye candy or. One of the quotes in this article that I thought was also particularly powerful is when he says, one of the greatest powers of masculinity and patriarchy is to make men oblivious to it. And I think that's probably, at least for me personally, and I'm certain it's for a lot of other women because we talk about this a lot. That's probably one of the greatest frustrations, I think, is just that inability to have self-awareness, the inability to be introspective or to give consideration to what women go through. I mean, what we go through all of the time, it is a lot. It is a lot. And obviously, for me as a white woman, it's not nearly as much as it is for Black women, for brown women, but we go through a lot collectively. We do. The tired argument of it, just when you talk about what women are wearing, it makes me think of the tired argument of they're asking for it. In that movie in the 80s, The Accused, where Jodie Foster starred, and it was a very disturbing movie. She was gang raped after she wore something provocative and she danced, and that was the reason why she was attacked. She was raped because she asked for it. So it's just a very tired argument. It's old. No. Anyway, I don't know where else I was going with this. It's exhausting. And it would be great if there would be just maybe some sensitivity and some kindness and awareness on the part of some men when we speak about our lived experience. That's it.
I got a question to ask.
Yes.
Clarifying?
Yes, you say you're not here for our pleasure, but you are here to have our babies.
No, I'm not here to have your babies either. No, I am not. That is not why I'm on this earth.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
That's the only reason you're
Well,
on this earth.
sorry, Glenn,
That's not
you didn't
clarifying.
really ask a question. You made a statement.
Yeah.
And that was really
Objectifying and gross.
objectifying and gross.
Anyway, hope I answered it.
Inappropriate and unacceptable in this context. So, welcome, Malcolm. I'm glad you're here. And the next person on the list is Nancy, and then the list is open.
Okay, once again, Glenn, specifically, I did what I've always told you not to do. I made a generalized statement. Okay, so I'm going to clarify and say that 99.999% of women do not dress for men. Okay, I'm not going to say all. I'm just going to say there could be that slight 0.0001 that does dress in a way in a way that will attract men. Okay. But for the most part, like I said, 99.999% do not. And then also, women are on this earth equally as well for the same reasons that men are on this earth. We are not here just to have babies. And I think that is a very draconian mindset of yours to say something as objectifying and disgusting as that.
Thank you, Nancy.
Put me on the list.
Thank you, Nancy. I've got Louise and then Glenn. Go ahead, Louise. You want on the list, Malcolm? Put up one finger. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Louise.
So it depends. Throughout my life, now that I'm an older woman, I totally just dress for myself and comfort. As a younger lady, perhaps, I'd be dressing for some kind of competition. I don't know. I think I've always just been a dress for what I want to wear and what makes me feel comfortable and, sexy on some occasions, not for men, for myself. But as far as being here just to raise babies or to have babies, I mean, we have the equipment for sure. You are right there, Glenn. We have the equipment for a baby. But that doesn't mean that's what our purpose is. And yet, as Nancy said, that is such an old draconian thought and belief to have, and such a basic, you know, narrow viewpoint, that it's a little frightening. I mean, are you saying this just to get a rise from people? I feel sometimes you just do things just to mess with us. But do you really truly believe in these things that you say sometimes? And yeah, so I'm just confused with how you really, what you really believe, you know? That's it.
Thank you. Louise, Glenn, you are next, so you can answer that if you would like.
Yes. Now, that is not the only reason that a woman is on this earth, but it is the major reason the woman was created. We couldn't have male on male and keep the race going with just male on male. We had to have the female, you know. So I mean, you modern women are really, I mean, you, you don't even have common sense no more. You know, you know, it's ridiculous that you don't believe that your purpose that God created you for, and if you believe in a God that He created you for, was for reappropriation. That's it.
That's really sad. Okay, Malcolm, if you're here, you're next. You're next, Malcolm, then Larry, then Nancy. Anybody else?
Oh, I guess I really am sorry I was late. Uh, let me just say this. I think that brought up in a household of women, I never thought of women in any other capacity than as friend and companion and teacher. I think that my grandmother who raised me most of my life, and then when I finally did go live with my mother, I think that I at times was unaware of how much suffering she was going through in order to raise a family. The other part of that is that I was going through. I felt that I learned more from women than I did from men. Besides the locker room talk that our president talked about in his first term, it was locker room talk. Well, even the locker room talk used to bother me, and even in college it did. So I think that what we've gone through, and I think that a lot of men. I'll do it this way. One of the biggest problem right now with fraternities, and I'm going to say just fraternities all across the country, men fraternities, is that they live in the past. And that's the reason they can't get rid of hazing in some of these fraternities, because these men have lived in the past, and they come forward and they still can't get rid of the past. Men in this respect at times, I think, are still living in the past with women, and they are sometimes being very objective about women, and they feel they've lost ground. and lost command.
Hey, Malcolm,
I'll
that beeping
come back
is,
on the list.
yeah, I don't know if Malcolm remembers if the beeping means time's up, but
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's okay.
okay.
So
Good to see you.
I put you back on the list, Malcolm.
sure.
Okay. Larry, you're next.
No, I think the article mentioned something about the non-confrontational question that helps men become feminists. That is what the article was headlined, and just the implication itself would be another attempt to fully emasculate the male. This whole concept of feminism, it was not, almost alluding to something Malcolm just said. It was not prevalent in the African American community because we had another common enemy, and that enemy was just to survive racism and white supremacy, which has reared its ugly head up now. And so this whole conversation, about feminism is a white woman's construct that unfortunately many Black women have been led astray to buy into it. And it does nothing but what the Willie Lynch letter said, if some of you are familiar with it, part of the strategy of helping the slave masters have their slaves to submit to them. One was to pit the woman against the man, the Black woman against the Black man. And that is what is going on. White women didn't care nothing about the sufferings of Black women. They could not put their shoes in Black women's shoes, their feet in Black women's shoes, and relate to what Black women went through. So this whole feminism construct was something that the white women created in rebellion against their white males, who were the dominant people who were controlling the system. And so, my Black sisters, I would have you to be very careful before you be led further astray to buy into this argument, And I don't know what we find strange about what Glenn said. Yes, the woman is created to reproduce in order that the human species may reproduce. It's a two-way street, the man and the woman. That's why we're here, to reproduce. Thank you.
Whoa.
Thank you. Oh, sir, Malcolm, you're not next. Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I've got Nancy, Louise, Malcolm, and then Glenn.
Okay.
If you could mute Malcolm, that'd be great.
Okay.
Nancy.
Back to my notes
Very nice.
and specifically directed at Glenn. That is not it, Glenn. That is not the only reason that women are here. It's a joint effort to make the species continue between men and women. It is not a woman's responsibility to have anybody's baby. If I choose not to, I'm not going to, and nobody's going to make me do it. It is a choice on my part, which men are trying to erode and eradicate my choice by sending us back to the 1950s. And there's also, as Larry pointed out, what is it? Toxic masculinity. And also Malcolm pointed out, if I'm not on top, then, I'm losing something. When somebody else gains ground and becomes equal, I have lost. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way between men and women. It doesn't have to be that way between races. But you're making it that way because you choose to. You choose to do that. Don't sit there and talk about God and religion and all. You choose to do it because you don't have to. You can see everybody as equal, whether you're male, female, white, Black, green, purple, or pink. You can choose to do that as well. Because as you said, we have free will. So you can choose to see everybody as an equal. if that's what you want to do, if that's what you truly believe. But you say one thing and you do something else, you show something else. That's what's going on.
Thank you, Nancy. Louise is next.
Actually, it was made me think of the amount of times that we've been trying to talk about feminism and the female point of view, and if you're not a female, you really don't understand. Made me think of the guy, I don't know if you've seen, just recently it was online about an older guy, like 75, 80 maybe. He went to go fight for a bill against trans people. Did you see that? And it was excellent. He sat and he listened. I repeat, listened for quite a good few hours, and then he got back on. He got up and he said, "Look, I apologize. I'm going to check. I'm not. I've learned stuff. I've been educated, and I've learned." He went in with his view that it was bad because he's been told that by various whatevers, and he changed. And I think that is, I just think that's a really lovely thing, and very reassuring that older people stuck in their ways might be able to listen and understand and change their viewpoint. That's it.
Thank you, Louise. Malcolm, you're next. Yep, go ahead.
I don't know. I guess I'm really I'm grappling with this a lot, because I think that no matter how we come at it, men have put themselves in a bad situation, trying to be the all in all and telling women what to do, when to do it, violence against women, assaults and everything else. So I think men, if they sit down and just think this thing through, that this person that is a female is our partner. And I think when I read the article, I think I picked up some of that as a way of saying that, hey, no matter how we look at this, women became aggressive because they needed to not be looked over, just as people of color became aggressive because they were tired of being looked over. So the battle is who's, again, like I said, and I always remember this, that was brought up to me, is that if there's a whole pie and you've had the whole pie, and just because you give a sliver of it to somebody else doesn't mean you lost. It means that you might have gained something by being understanding and allowing that person to share that pie with you. So the gentleman who just talked, I guess, and actually I'm probably close to the age of some of those gentlemen. I just turned 39, so but I don't know. I think that feminism, and it's good. And I think it helps us. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Next is Glenn, then Marion, then Marla. Anybody else?
Yeah. Okay. I was raised with a mother and a father in the house. And the great problem we have today is a woman raising a child by herself, not having a man over these children. And my mother played a part in showing me love and kindness and gentleness and caring. But there comes a point where, as a male, I have to be turned over to the male When I reach 13, it's time for me to be turned over to the male to be being raised and teaching me what is a man supposed to do. Uh, so the two families, and the woman is not the only reason the woman is here. I didn't say that. That's maybe I did say it, but that ain't what I meant. That's all that she's here for. But if she wasn't here, uh, so, something would have to be made to reproduce us because we all be dead. There wouldn't be no humans on this earth. Uh, so uh, uh, it is we are whole. You're not, women thinking I can do better without a man. That is crap. You are half of a whole. You're not complete. Uh, and like I say, but you've been fed all this feminist foolishness. All right, that's it.
Thank you. I have Marion, Marla, Nancy, and then Teresa. So Nancy.
Sorry.
Oh, and Larry.
Okay, I'll say this real quickly. It's not feminist foolishness, but this is what I wanted to really address. The comment that was made that uh, women were put on Earth to have babies. A lot of women on Earth don't have babies. So, and some of them have husbands too, and they still don't have babies. I'm not trying to beat you all over the head with Bible scriptures. I just flipped the book, the Bible over, and I went to Genesis second chapter, verse 18. It says, "Then the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper, 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 fit for him." Doesn't say I'm going to make uh, women so they can have babies. Women were created to help men, according to the Bible. I know some people say that the Bible is a book of Jewish fairy tales. Some might be, but there's a lot of truth you can get out of it too. So I'm gonna stick to my guns and say we were not just created to have babies. Well, we were meant as a helpmate.
So I'm just going to jump in here right now
I'm
because of the
done.
conversation that we had after the meeting last week where it was stated that people should refrain from the kind of thing that you, Marion, just did.
Okay.
Reading scripture, quoting scripture. I don't, this is what was decided at the end of
Well,
that.
that's why I said what I said. I wasn't trying to beat you all over the head
I
with
understand, and I just
religious
want to,
teaching, but I
I
was just
just
trying
want
to
to
find
remind,
something.
I just want to remind those who were here during that
Yeah.
conversation, because you were not, that was the decision that we came to, and that is in our beginning statement that we do not espouse any particular religion. And I would also put in here that helper is not equal.
I didn't hear it. What did you say?
Helper is not equal.
Okay.
So just want to put that out there. Next, I have Marla.
I think you put me on the list when I was actually applauding what Nancy said with but it's okay. I just have a couple quick things. I just want to thank Malcolm for coming in and having he's very willing to listen, I think, and very willing to hear other people's experiences, including women, and it's greatly, greatly appreciated. And even though I know plenty of women out there would probably be like, that's bare minimum. I mean, but it's it's growth. To me, it shows that some people are definitely willing to grow, they're willing to hear, and they're willing to recognize that they can evolve, that their views may not necessarily be static. And that's, at least for myself, that's what I hope for myself all of the time. So the final thing I would say, somebody commented about the problem with that single women, single parent moms are a problem, or that they aren't. I don't even know what it was. I think I like blacked out when I started hearing it. But I was a single mom for a few years, and now that my daughter did wind up with a stepdad when I got remarried, but I most certainly could have continued to do this on my own. And I'll tell you what, I've done a damn good job too. My kid's phenomenal. She's doing phenomenal things. So, hey, guess what? Single moms who have the support of other women, they can make it. They can make it. And your kids aren't going to turn out to be some degenerates because they don't have a quote unquote man over them. That's it.
Thank you, Marla. Next, I've got Nancy, Teresa, and then Larry. The list is open. It is 11:03, so we'll see how it goes as those three finish. Nancy.
Yeah. In response to the statement that a woman without a man is incomplete, if that man is abusive, demeaning, controlling, physically abusive, or any of those things, you better off without him. I had a coworker who was a single parent, and she at times felt very bad that the children did not have a father figure. However, she had to leave the father figure because of the reasons that I just said. Okay, it was a very physically, verbally, substance abuse type of situation where she, for her own safety and her children's safety, she had to live. And I told her not to feel bad because a bad dad is worse than no dad. Okay, and that is a proven fact. If you have a toxic parent in the relationship, it is bad for the children. So to say that a woman is incomplete without a man is not true. Women can do just as well by themselves and have been doing for many years by themselves. Thank you.
Nancy. Next, Teresa, then Larry, then Glenn.
All right, thank you. I don't remember why this was brought up, but I just want to point out that my parents have been married for 63 years. I'm living with them now. I've often referred to them as my octogenarian teenagers because I am child-free by choice. Yay, birth control works. So among my sisters, I'm the only one who isn't a mother. Both of my sisters are mothers. Only one has been married for over 30 years, and she also has three children. And to think that I don't know what narrow description of feminism that's being operated here, but we are very distinct three people, and we're all female and we're all heterosexual and we all made different choices in our lives. One is an entrepreneur, one is now a teacher, but she's always been an artist. I've been all over the map, but I have loved my life. I feel like I have been very adventurous in my life, living around the world and the choices that I've made. And most of the countries that I've lived in have been developing countries. And living in different developing countries, I have truly realized how blessed I was to be educated, to control how many children that I brought into the world, which for my choice was zero, and to have access not just to education and birth control, but to have a voice, to not have and a means to make money. And those were the three things that I saw that a lot of women around the world or in developing countries struggled with: access to birth control, education, and a means to make money. So, and any one of those things could be really a Herculean task to acquire. And I feel very blessed that I was born, raised, and, to be independent, but not independent in the total negation of men. Men do have their place in my life. Like I said, my father married to my mother for over 63 years. He's my role model, but to be a fully actualized adult and to think that some people in society think that whatever manifestation it is between your legs, you cannot be a full actualized adult. There are certain things that needs to be taken care of because you're no longer a child. You are an adult. And that's what I think of when I think of feminism is to say, no, don't hold my physical body against me. I am still an intelligent adult and I have contributions that I can make to society, and I should not be handicapped
Teresa, did
by.
you hear the people?
I did, and I kept going anyway. I wanted to complete that thought. Thank you. I am done.
No. Larry's next, then Glenn. Anybody else
If
want to get on? Go ahead.
if we either male or female, and we don't think the purpose of our being here is procreation, let us just stop having babies, period, and see what would happen
Good
to the
idea.
human race. That's all we got to do. Just stop and see if we can exist. Martin Luther King said from the Birmingham jail, the letter that he wrote when some black nationalists were cropping up across the nation with a more militant attitude. And Martin Luther King was responding to, I think, 7 white ministers in the Birmingham area who came across, who criticized him for coming into Birmingham and creating a disturbance. But in part of his summation, the letter to them, he said that I have tried to stand between these two forces, saying that we need emulate neither the do nothingness of the complacent nor the hatred and despair of the black nationalists. But there is the more excellent way of love and nonviolent protest. I am grateful to God that through the influence of the Negro Church, the way of nonviolence became an integral part of our struggles. So we want to have our struggles included in all the conversations, except that if our struggles are from the Christian perspective, then we want to shut out any discussion of God. And I knew the moment Marion went back to Genesis, I knew she was going to be attacked. I knew it, and it happened. And so I speak from my life experiences. After 6 years of courtship in high school, I married my wife. And through marriage and courtship, we've been together for 60 years. And we were married in the eyes of God and under God's laws. And it is love that has sustained us through all of these times. And a whole lot more I could say. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Marion a clarifying question. Did you feel attacked?
Muted.
Okay, no, I didn't feel attacked. But at the beginning of my remarks, I did say I wasn't trying to beat you all over the head with a Sunday school lesson or a sermon. I was really trying to just find a quick reference source. But we did some time ago. I appreciate what you said, Larry, but I didn't feel attacked,
I,
established.
I
Thank
felt
you.
attacked for you.
Well, that's not a real thing.
No,
So,
I didn't feel attacked.
okay,
That
thank you.
we've
I've got,
established that we're not supposed to be trying to bring religion into it, even though I did stress I wasn't trying to teach a
Okay.
Sunday school lesson.
thank you, got it. Okay. We've got Glenn is the last person on the list. Oh, and then, well, Malcolm will be the last person on the list. And then we will do the wrap up.
Okay. Uh, to show you the importance of having babies, China, which is the most populated country on earth, I believe maybe it's India, but I believe China is, thought that it had too many people. So it was going to cut back on the birth rate. They had a one child policy. And then they found out that made the country worse uh, by not letting people naturally produce. They changed the policy. I'm talking science here. I'm not talking emotionalism about a woman a woman being a vessel to have babies. I'm not talking no. This is science, and this is nature. Uh, when we came up in the 50s, they was mostly married people, and you had stability in our communities. Look at the chaos we have now with people just wanting to shack up and have and uh, and breaking a contract whenever they get ready and leaving and leaving a woman with holding the bag and just holding the babies and raising the babies by themselves. It our community is a reflection. The killings that we have in our community, the the the, the when I was a child, you could leave your door open 24 hours a day. Now people are afraid to even sit out at night. That's because of the women left alone to raise the children, a male child especially by themselves. Yeah, you got a female child. That ain't bad because the father don't be raising the female, but he has to be there to raise that male child, or you're going to have the chaos that we now have in our communities. That's it.
Thank you, Glenn. Malcolm, you're next, and then we'll go into the wrap up. Oh, you're muted still.
I'm somewhat put back by that last statement. I was raised by women. There was no male in the household. I think I came out of this thing pretty good. I think maybe I came out of it because I had an understanding what women were and are and what they mean to our society, and that their independence helped me to make my independence just as important in a way that had some empathy to it. I think that we've lost empathy for a lot of men, and I think most men who have lost that empathy don't truly respect women as they should be respected or their cause. I just think that I'm sorry to hear that we're still having this discussion about women feminists and how it relates, rather than having a discussion about how we can come together, both joining together what women want and need and what men want and need, and have a productive conversation that says, I'm willing to understand where you are. I'm willing to hope that you understand where I'm at. And I just feel very strongly that that is a hurting part, and maybe that's our division. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm. Okay, so we'll go into the wrap up. I'll call people by how I see them on the screen. And it's going to be a quick 1 minute for each person. I will start with Marion.
I certainly appreciated this particular topic. It was very stimulating, and I certainly appreciated everyone's comments. I'm glad I attended the discussion today.
Thank you, Marion. Nancy?
Thank you, Phyllis, for bringing this topic. I'm sorry I missed the last meeting and whatnot. I think it would have given me greater insight as to how we got to where we were today. But I did appreciate everyone's comments. And have a good weekend. Okay.
Thank you. Larry?
Yes, thank you. I was raised in a fatherless household too. But I think I turned out pretty well. But I think where Glenn was coming from is the order of creation. Something can be out of order and still operate, but it won't last. So when we talk about the order of things, yes, the mother and the father is needed to raise a child. And that has nothing to do with femininity or masculinity. It's just the order. It's just the order of things. You know, and for 2 straight Saturdays now, we talked about feminism. And this is a far stretch from the meetings I used to attend way back in the 90s, where the black woman and the white woman that started Erace started because of white supremacy and racism and segregation and Jim Crow. We are so far removed from that conversation in the midst of Trumpism and all the other stuff, the DEI dismounting and all the other stuff that's gone on. Feminism is not the problem.
Larry? Teresa, you're next.
Well, Phyllis, thanks for trying. And I do hope the next time we do have an article basically about the pathway for men to be feminists, it's not hijacked by women having babies. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Louise, you're next.
Oh, there's just so much. My page is full of
1 minute.
things.
Talk fast.
Huh?
1 minute.
Yeah.
Talk fast.
Well, I know the last comment by Larry was, man and woman. I mean, try saying that to a gay couple who are raising kids, and they do fantastic job. So, I mean that, and also what Malcolm says, and again, thank you, Malcolm. I'm so glad you're in this group now, and your words are very valuable. We appreciate you. Empathy for sure is missing in this world, for sure, which goes back to my last comment about people listening. Just listen. If you're so vehemently against something, just listen to people's stories, listen to the other side, and maybe that can just help educate you. And Glenn, we're not living in the 50s anymore. Things have changed and societies have changed. Sometimes not for the best, for sure. I agree. There are some things that we could change, but we've moved on, and women feel empowered for certain things and realize that they can do a lot of things, and that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Let's see. I think Glenn is next.
Okay. Thank you for the topic. It was exciting. I enjoyed the different views that were brought out. Don't agree with all the views that were brought out. I feel there's a lot more emotion involved in the views than actual rational thinking. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Malcolm.
I think that anytime you talk about positions of what we're trying to get done in our society, is going to be emotions. I think that you cannot have this discussion without some emotion, because some people are hurting inside because of this, and they've had to deal with it. So I'm always thinking about every time I see that there are female pilots flying aircraft. They're doing all these different things and thinking that one time we tried to hold them back. I'm always impressed with that we got Black pilots. When they were told in the Tuskegee Airmen that you weren't able to fly, and we've proven them to fly. Yeah, there's going to be emotion. Even when you talk about it years later, there's still the emotion there because we're always concerned about where we are. And again, I want to thank y'all for allowing me to join you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome anytime. And thank you to Teresa for bringing him to us. Marla, you are the final person, I believe.
All right. I don't have much more to add. I would just encourage all men, including men on this call, that, referring back to the article, what he says, the most important thing we can do as men is to read and question. Read widely and tease out the contradictions of everything that you read. And he lists a recommendation, has a list of books that he recommends. But also, I liked what he said about talking to his good male friends and, putting each other in check and saying, if they ask themselves a simple question before they speak, act, think, whatever, with regard to moving in a space with women, is, do you really want to be that guy? And I thought that was really, really fantastic. And certainly a lot of younger men, especially college aged, could stand to ask each other, do you really want to be that guy? Anyway, thank you, everybody. Great discussion.
So now I will go into the facilitator wrap up part of this, and I made some notes. First, though, I want to start with saying if someone who attends the meeting is not happy with the topics being chosen, they are welcome to sign up to be a facilitator. Otherwise, it's like if you don't vote, you don't get to complain about who won. I think Marla's applauding me now, I understand. I will first call attention to the reading list at the end of the article. There are some really good books on this that I'm familiar with. The Women's Liberation and Gay Liberation Movements by Huey P. Newton was actually a speech he gave, and it's very brief. If you click on the link in the article, it'll take you to a place you can read it. Or maybe I had to Google it. But anyway, I found it. I was sort of surprised. He was like, if it's revolutionary, I'm all about it. So that's in a nutshell. I brought this article really hoping that the members of the group who last week were really displaying what he describes as being in opposition to women, being, seeing themselves as against women. That to me is the problem with a lot of ancient books that are quoted, that the very first book sets up pitting women against men. And that's not, in my belief, the way of nature. I don't know if the people who, as Teresa said, hijacked the meeting with babies and that, I don't know if they actually read the article, if they understood the article. I actually was hoping that a Black male person who also had African literal today heritage, like he grew up in Kenya after he was born in the States and then came back here. I was hoping that voice would be heard more than a woman's voice would be heard. I guess not. It's disappointing. I'm sure Dr. Nagubi would be disappointed. And I think that the headline is pointing to that very last quote. Do you want to be the guy? Do you want to be that guy? Some of you clearly don't have a problem with being that guy. I don't necessarily agree, and maybe it's a generational thing, that women dress to compete with other women unless the environment, that's how the environment is set up. That may be a case. I just don't live in that world. The idea that people have to keep procreating, we could take a break and still be okay, because there's way too many people using way too many of the finite resources of this planet. So even if we keep procreating, we probably all might die anyway. Marla, just as you wrote in the chat, a woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle, I was writing it in my notebook. I looked up and I saw the chat. I was like, oh my gosh. So I want to talk about China's one-child policy, because Glenn, you left out a big part of that. Was culturally what happened was male babies were favored. People would have abortions if they knew their child was a girl. Girl babies were abandoned, left to die, dumped at orphanages. That is why they had to back up from that policy, not because they were losing population. And a lot of the male children of that generation, or however long it lasted, were spoiled, basically, and women didn't want them because they were just, lazy mama's boys. I do want to say that last week, the conversation afterwards, the question was asked, did I think that what was being exhibited was toxic masculinity? And I've thought about it, especially in relationship to this article, and I would say no, it wasn't. It was fragile masculinity. Because some people seem to think they have to exhibit a power over, a control of other people to feel like they haven't been emasculated. So I'm really, again, disappointed that the point of this article was ignored. Many people didn't seem to get it. I'm just disappointed. I don't know what to do if people don't want to have grow their consciousness. I don't understand not wanting to do that. I want to do that all the time. And I would say, yes, feminism did start out being white women for white women, but things have changed, as they do, from the 50s and from the early 90s. And we're in a different time. And there's a lot of white women who understand the harms of the previous generations of feminism, and we're doing things to change it. So I will end with that. Thank you all for attending. And the next meeting is going to be April 5th. Nancy, you still can do it? Okay, and it will be a board meeting. And I will be flying back from Ohio on that day. So I will look forward to watching the video. I'm going to end this recording.